Welcome to this video where I explain why dodging is important, tips for it, and how it works with each weapon. Dodging is one of what I call the core fundamentals of Dauntless that determines how well a slayer performs on his or her hunts. The reason it's so important is because your dodge gives you invulnerability frames that prevents you from taking any damage when dodging through an attack at the correct point in time. Taking the least amount of damage possible when fighting any behemoth is key to ensuring that any hunt you go on is successful. The less you get hit, the less you are staggered, which means more uptime for you to damage the behemoth. Certain perks such as Evasive Fury and Nimble give you bonus effects on perfect dodges, so once you've mastered dodging, you'll be able to utilize perks like these more effectively and make your hunts faster and easier overall. Now let's go over some of the tips that will help you improve your dodge game immensely. Tip number 1. Dodge into attacks. The main mistake beginner slayers make when it comes to this is dodging away from attacks. Contrary to what most people may think, you actually want to dodge into attacks because your invulnerability frames will render you immune to any damage you would have taken if you dodge just as an attack is about to hit you, or just as the behemoth finishes winding up its attack. Tip number 2. Stamina management. Don't spam the dodge button for no reason as you risk running out of stamina. Dodging too early, or having your invulnerability frames dissipate at the end of the dodge animation, which will increase the likelihood of an attack striking you. Stamina management is one of the most important things you should know as you progress through the game. The amount of stamina you have determines the amount of dodges you can perform at any given moment. To efficiently utilize your stamina, you must first stop performing inefficient actions like sprinting with your weapon out when you could just sheath it, dodging for no reason, or using stamina consumption moves when there's no need to. Assuming you're in a situation where you do deplete your stamina bar, you wait for a second or two, you'll generate a small bit of stamina to be able to dodge again, as your dodge doesn't require a strict amount of stamina to be performed once your stamina bar is empty. This will effectively allow you to dodge infinitely even at 0 stamina if you're patient and don't do anything to expend your stamina, such as sprinting with your weapon unsheathed or using stamina consuming attacks. Tip number 3. Behemoth tells and waiting in between attacks. Be patient, observe a behemoth's tells and do not overcommit to attacks. A tell is basically a small movement a behemoth makes before attacking. Every single behemoth in the game has a tell for almost every single attack they do, that varies in length. Some can be extremely short and subtle, while others are quite long and obvious. Link every attack to the tell that behemoth does and you'll be able to predict exactly what it's going to do ahead of time and deal with the upcoming attack appropriately. In between almost every single attack you make, you need to wait for a moment and watch for any tells a behemoth will make. If it does a tell, then you should immediately stop attacking and wait for the attack to happen so you can iframe your way through it using your dodge. Tip number 4. Timing. Understanding the timing of every attack that a behemoth does will increase the chances of successfully dodging through them. To do this, you should go into a private hunt solo and practice against every behemoth until you can dodge most of their attacks without any issue. Every behemoth has different timings on their attacks, but I personally recommend you start by practicing against the Nasher variants, as it is the first behemoth that you encounter in the game that truly teaches you the basics of dodging. If you can dodge the majority of a Nasher's attacks without getting hit at least 90% of the time, you'll become better at dodging overall. It's even better if you can dodge all the attacks from a Rage Tail Nasher, because at that point, you'll be able to avoid pretty much anything, because in addition to the physical attacks, shockwaves are sent out with almost every move it makes, which makes it twice as hard to dodge. The relentless onslaught of physical and projectile based moves from a Rage Tail will test your dodging capabilities and show you how to dodge both physical and projectile based moves. Tip number 5. Enraged and Aether Charged. If you can time your dodges extremely well, you can even dodge through the burst of red etheric energy when a behemoth enrages, and even some behemoths' Aether charged states like the XAEGERs. This can be extremely useful against behemoths like Valamir, as you won't be staggered by the etheric energy burst and remain inside his bubble of light, or you'll be able to continue damaging him instead of wasting time removing his light shield. Tip number 6. Audio tells. Utilize audio tells to dodge attacks that you may not be able to see, such as Rooftopper's portal attacks, Hellions rolling slam from underground, or even Shroud slammed out from the air. Certain behemoths will have a specific sound play for certain moves. You can identify the sound and pinpoint the exact point in time to dodge when the sound plays. You'll be able to dodge the attack without even having to look at it. Tip number 7. Mobility. Do not be afraid to use your dodge as a mobility tool, especially if you have perks that support it, such as agility, conditioning, and fleet-footed. Closing the distance by using your dodge is sometimes necessary in order to get more attacks off. If you're worried about completely depleting your stamina bar once you reach the behemoth due to expending it for mobility, just recall what was mentioned in stamina management and make sure you keep your distance if you think it will not regenerate enough stamina in time. Moving on to how to dodge with each weapon in the game, we first start with the sword. When using a sword, you can pause for about 1 to 2 seconds between each strike to check if the behemoth is going to perform an attack. If it doesn't, you can continue the combo as per usual without it being interrupted. You can even use your dodge as a mobility tool, as the dodge attack on sword extends the distance traveled by a fair bit. Combine your dodge with the Aether Dash in the Valiant Overdrive special to travel great distances. The dodge attack can even be used to interrupt behemoths without it getting hit if you can time and redirect the dodge properly. This is done by first dodging in one direction and redirecting your attack towards the direction of the behemoth. The hammer is a slow weapon and thus you can't always be spamming the attack button when using it, as the animations for every attack take a few seconds to execute, thus leaving you wide open to getting hit. Only do 1 or 2 hammer swings before pausing your combo to dodge or back off, as executing the third swing usually gets you hit. So unless the behemoth is staggered, has an opening, or has just done an attack, it's best to not do the last hammer swing. You can make your 3 hammer swing combo faster with attack speed perks to reduce the amount of time each swing animation takes to execute, but only if you have gear or cells with perks such as Evasive Fury, Wild Frenzy, Conduit, and Molten. The fastest combo you can perform on the hammer is repeating uppercuts, which requires you to be initially doing a hammer swing while standing still with no movement inputs, followed by a press of the forward button into the next 2 hammer swings. If you want to get off as many Aether Slimes as possible, always use this combo and nothing else. If you're charging up Concussive Salvo or Mighty Landbreaker, you can dodge even in the middle of charging either special, and it will save the amount of charges you put into the hammer, which you can then expend all at once by tapping the button used to charge the ammo. The dodge attack on the hammer is slightly faster than starting off with the normal initial horizontal hammer swing, so if you want to complete the horizontal hammers combo faster, you should do a dodge attack and subsequently complete it with the last 2 swings. The iframe window for Chainblades is completely different from every other weapon, as it starts at the end of the dodge and not at the beginning like the other 5 weapons. This requires any Chainblade player to anticipate moves and dodge into attacks earlier than normal to avoid getting hit by triggering the iframe window. For more damage uptime on the behemoth, you can still trigger your iframes without having to travel the entire length of the Chainblade's dash distance by utilizing the behemoth's body as a stopping mechanism. As explained earlier in the Tail section, Tails will really help you dodge more effectively on Chainblades and anticipate moves that are coming up, so you can dodge into them 1 or 2 seconds earlier than normal. You can perform an extended heavy attack by dodging first and then heavy attacking to hit a behemoth from extremely far away. This is extremely useful when paired with the perk Weighted Strikes +6, as this will allow you to easily interrupt any behemoth with an unstable move. Other than interruption, this extra attack isn't very useful if you don't have Weighted Strikes +6 or are fighting a behemoth with no unstable moves. When charging your attacks on Axe, you can dodge out of it to cancel the charge if you find that you're about to get hit by a behemoth's attack. You can choose to use the resolve from the 3rd Axe charge to gain super armor to power your way through the attack, or dodge out of the charge to cancel it and avoid damage. Depending on your build, you will choose whether you want to avoid damage or take it. Warpike allows you to dodge in between basic attacks for both Piercing Flurry and Aether Harvester combos. Piercing is more liberal as the animation is faster, allowing you to dodge after a Pierce attack and even while doing the Flurry move at the end of the Piercing Flurry combo if you have enough stamina to dodge after cancelling it. The Aether Harvester combo has slower attack animations, thus only allowing you to dodge out of them once an animation is finished, with the exception to this rule being the combo finisher, as you are allowed to dodge out of it at any time from the middle to the end of the animation as long as you have enough stamina. Normally, the Pierce attack cannot interrupt unstable attacks, but if you dodge roll into a Pierce attack, you will be able to interrupt unstable attacks like the Embermane's Rush Claw Swipe move. Naturally, the heavy dodge attack can also interrupt if you manage to time it correctly. When using the Concussive Payload special, you can dodge out of it and cancel the charge at any time. When using repeaters, you can't dodge while you're reloading, so make sure you don't lock yourself into the animation before an attack occurs. The best time to reload is usually after the behemoth has just finished an attack, which will give you enough time to get close and get your empowered reload. Since the repeaters will always have technique and mobility cell slots, you should utilize the mobility slot to incorporate perks like fleet-footed or agility to turn your dodge into a movement tool, which compensates for the repeater's lack of mobility when unsheathed. Thanks for watching the video. If you found this informative, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the YouTube channel, using my Epic creator code for any purchases in the Epic store, and following me on Twitch with the link in the description below.